Huh? $10,000?
That's how much I need. So take the money out of the inheritance you got from your father, Monica.
No way. There's no way you can use $10,000 from the inheritance. I mean, why should I use my father's inheritance for your family in the first place?
You're a heartless person. Your own husband's family is in trouble.
Then it's only normal for you to explain why your family needs the money, right? It's no use talking to you. Let's go to your parents' house right now so I could ask them about it.
What?
My name is Monica. I'm a 42-year-old office worker. I live with my husband Ben and our daughter Rachel, who is in the 9th grade. We fight sometimes, of course, but we are happy as a family in our own way. I thought that our daily life would go on as usual. However, it seems that things are not as they seem, since just the other day my father passed away due to illness. I was really sad because he had taken very good care of me. I cried at the funeral. My mother was also very sad about the loss of her beloved husband. After that, when I had calmed down, my father's inheritance was transferred to my bank book. My eyes almost popped out of my head when I saw the amount. Of course, the amount was split with my mother, but it amounted to a few $1,000s. Actually, my father was the owner of several companies, therefore he had considerable assets. However, that didn't turn him into a person who showed off how rich he was. He had always been a frugal person, and he led an ordinary life. He did not own luxury brands or go frequently to eat out at luxury restaurants, nor did he live the life of a so-called rich person. Even the allowances he'd give me was the average amount, so he had a common sense of money. Therefore, it was quite a shock for me to suddenly receive tens of thousands of dollars in my bank book. When I talked to my mother about it, she told me, "It was left to you by your father, so spend it as you like." Spend it as I like, huh? If I think it that way, then I guess I'd like to leave it for my daughter and my family. My daughter is a high school student, and her tuition fee will cost more and more every year. It would also be good to use that money to fund my future retirement. I decided that I would use this money in case something happened to me. Therefore, I decided not to touch it at all, to leave it as if it had never existed, and to use it when I really needed it. From then on, I went about my normal daily life as usual. Then my husband suddenly said he needed to talk to me. What's wrong?
Well, I got a call from my mother.
Your mother? Is something wrong?
No, they want us to lend them some money.
What? What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know the details, but they said it's been tough for them.
What's tough for them, though?
Well, anyway, they just need a lot of money. That's why she's asking for our help.
But we don't have a lot of money. We are saving our money for Rachel's tuition anyway.
About that, you did receive an inheritance from your father who passed away, right?
Excuse me?
Don't tell me that you didn't receive it. Know that my father-in-law owned several companies too. He must have had some assets for you to inherit. I mean, there's no way that you, who's your father's only daughter, didn't get it, right? Even if you hid it from us, we'd find out about it, you know?
It was a statement I never expected to hear, especially from my husband. And it was certainly a lot which I inherited, so I didn't tell my husband about it. Because I also heard that when people get a tremendous amount of money, their personality could change. I was going to manage that money as if it was basically not there. So I was surprised when my husband mentioned the inheritance, even though I hadn't said anything about it. Well, yes, I did receive a little bit, but...
How much did you receive?
Huh?
I'm asking you, how much did you receive for the inheritance?
Now, wait a minute. Why do I have to tell you that so suddenly?
Oh, I see. You got a lot that you can't even tell me, huh?
No, it's not like that.
Okay then, I guess you'd be able to manage about $10,000.
Huh? $10,000? What are you talking about?
That's how much I need. So take the money out of the inheritance you got from your father, Monica.
No way. There's no way I can give you $10,000. First of all, what are you going to use that kind of money for?
I told you I don't know the details either.
That's just so weird. Why should I spend my father's inheritance for your family anyways?
You're a heartless person. Your own husband's family is in trouble.
Then it's only normal for you to explain why your family needs the money, right? I mean, your parents should come and ask me directly for it, right?
No, it has to be through me first.
It's no use talking to you. Let's go to your parents' house now so I could ask the details to them.
What?
If you won't go, I'll go by myself and ask them.
Okay, I'll go too.
My husband reluctantly agreed, and we went to my parents-in-law's house. My in-laws were surprised that we visited them so suddenly. Oh, what in the world is going on?
What a sudden visit from you two.
I think it's more sudden to ask us to give you $10,000. When I said that, their faces stiffened. I'll make a pot of tea right away.
Oh, you two came a long way. Come in, come on up.
So we all sat down in the living room and started to talk about it. Please kindly explain. How did you come to need such a large amount of money? Well, you see,
it's been tough for us too, you know.
My in-laws were being very vague, just like how Ben was. That's enough. If you don't want to explain it properly, I'll leave. I can't pay $10,000 for a reason that won't be explained to me. I stood up and my in-laws stopped me, as if they were hanging on to me desperately. Oh, wait a minute.
I'll explain it. Just please listen.
Then my parents-in-law awkwardly told me why they needed the money. What? My sister-in-law had an affair and you need the money to pay for her alimony? What the heck? She did that again? Actually, my sister-in-law has been requested for alimony in the past because of her affair. At that time, as I recall, my parents-in-law paid it on her behalf. Yes, that's right. This time, the person who she cheated with was married. Not only her husband, but also the wife of the lover is demanding alimony from her as well. Huh?
And that amount is $10,000 in total.
What in the world does she do to get a claim of $10,000 in alimony? That's a lot, isn't it? I was beyond angry and dismayed. How much have these people spoiled their own daughter? And to think that they could no longer handle it themselves and would turn to their own son's wife? Please, we have no one to turn to but you. I'm sorry, but I can't pay the fees for her affair.
Oh no. Hey, Monica, you're being too much.
You tried to get me to give you money without telling me why, didn't you? I didn't like how this started out from the beginning. And the reason why you didn't tell me the reason until the last minute was because you really didn't think it was possible to borrow money for such a thing, right? When I said that, both my husband and my in-laws got quiet. I said, I won't give the money anyway, and left my parents-in-law's house. That night, my husband stayed at my parents-in-law's house for a while and came back home.
Why did you go home first?
Because there was nothing more to talk about.
Mom and Dad were crying. They were saying, what are we going to do now?
Excuse me? It was your sister who got into this mess in the first place, wasn't it? I don't understand why your mother and your father is being like this.
That's only natural since we're all a family. My sister doesn't have $10,000 to pay and my family don't have that kind of money either. That's why we can only depend on you, Monica.
But that's not right. Normally you pay for your own alimony, right? Even if the alimony is very expensive, there are ways to pay it in installments. Isn't your sister repeating the same mistake because her family is helping her out for everything?
Anyway, Monica, you got the inheritance and has quite a bit of money to spare, right? If that's the case, why don't you give us a little help?
I'm trying not to spend that money in case something happens to us or Rachel. We can use it for Rachel's school fees, for our retirement, and for many other things.
If you say that the inheritance is there in case something happens to us, it also applies to my sister, doesn't it?
No, why?
What? You're abandoning your family?
Wow, it really is no use talking to you. My priority is Rachel, and next is me and you. And the reason why your sister needs it is just too disappointing, and she deserves what she got. I mean, if she was in an accident and you all needed money for medical treatment, that's one thing. But alimony for your own infidelity? I honestly think that's disgusting.
Are you trying to insult my sister?
I'm just giving you the general opinion. This is what happens when you and your mother spoil your sister. You know that, right? If you really care about your sister, then you should hold her accountable for her own actions.
Huh. You've changed since you got your inheritance.
I beg your pardon?
I don't know how to explain this, but you've become so stingy.
What?
That's enough. I was stupid to depend on you.
Saying that, my husband went back to his room. What was that? He talked to me as if he was looking down on me. He's the one who's insane. I was completely disappointed with my husband. The next day, something unexpected happened. When I came home from work, my daughter came running up to me with an anxious look on her face. Rachel, what's wrong? Well, it's Dad. As soon as he got home from work, he packed up his stuff and... What? Dad said that he was going back to his parents' house, so he asked me if I wanted to come too. I told him I was waiting for you, Mom, and he said, okay, and just left. Hey, did you and Dad have a fight? I can't believe he actually left. Rachel, I'm sorry for worrying you. Dad and I had a bit of a fight, you see, and your dad got upset and went back to his parents' house. I see. She still looks worried. Is there still something wrong? Well, actually, Dad asked me where you hid your bank book and stuff. Excuse me? When I asked him why, he said he was going to cancel the savings account and the insurance. What? I didn't understand, but somehow I thought he was trying to do something wrong without telling you, so I told him I didn't know. Thank you, Rachel. You've been a great help. To my surprise, my husband found it impossible to rely on my inheritance, and now he was trying to get money by canceling our daughter's school savings account. I can't stay married to someone like that anymore. That's what I thought to myself. Mom, is something wrong? I had no choice but to tell her the truth. Told my daughter the whole story as it was. Then she exclaimed, That's the worst! What in the world is wrong with my aunt, grandma, and grandpa? Who do they think my mom is? And they were even trying to cause trouble to me too? Mom, you need to break up with a guy like him. Are you sure about that? You'll lose your father, and plus, you'll have to change schools too, you know. That's fine. Because it is not better for me or you to be with a guy like Dad. My daughter insisted that much that I made up my mind. Thankfully, my husband never came back himself, so Rachel and I found a room to move it into. Then later that day, the divorce papers in hand, I rode up to my in-laws' house with my lawyer. When I arrived home, my in-laws greeted me and said terrible things to me. Who the hell do you think you are?
You heartless woman, who won't even try to help us.
Are you sure you could say that? I'm recording what you just said, so I could sue you for moral harassment, you know. What? When I said that, my in-laws became quiet and led me through to the living room. In the living room, my husband was sitting with his arms crossed as if he was the boss of the house.
Finally, you're here. You finally decided to offer me $10,000?
Are you stupid? Of course not.
What?
I wanted to say something to you. You're disgusting, sneaking around behind my back and trying to get money by canceling my daughter's school savings account. You should be ashamed of yourself as a father.
Shut up. I was just trying to help my precious sister. What's wrong with trying to take care of your own family?
You think it's okay if my family is in trouble because of that?
Well, it's not like you guys are in trouble like my sister, right?
So you think it's okay for us to be in trouble then? Fine, I get it. Well, Rachel and I don't need you in our lives.
Huh? What are you talking about?
Let's get a divorce.
Huh?
I said that and put the divorce papers on the table. This guy is my lawyer, so we can start talking about child support and so on right away.
Wait a minute. You can't just suddenly start talking about divorce.
That's right. Monica, you better think this through. Whether you think about it or not, the answer is the same. If you and I stay as a family any longer, I will only be used as a convenient money tree.
You don't have to put it that way.
But it's true, isn't it? When I came over earlier, your mother and father said something terrible to me, just because I didn't help them pay off for their daughter's alimony. Well, that's...
Hey, please just reconsider. Even Rachel won't approve of this. She'd be shocked.
Unfortunately, Rachel wants us to get a divorce. And after the divorce, she wants to live with me. She doesn't want to see her dad, her grandma, or her grandpa anymore.
No way!
My husband was quite shocked that his daughter abandoned him. His parents-in-law were also depressed and looked down, knowing that their granddaughter said that. After that, my husband, who had lost all his hope, signed the divorce papers with an explanation from my lawyer. Thus, our divorce was successfully finalized. My daughter and I are living peacefully in our new home. Ben originally asked me to let him see his daughter because he would pay child support. But I gave him the condition that he would pay child support and have it to his daughter's decision each time whether or not to see him. By the way, Rachel still does not want to see her father, and my ex-husband has not been able to see his daughter at all. My ex-husband still contacts me to ask me to get back together with him, but I ignore all of his messages. He also reported to me that his sister is having a hard time, even though I didn't ask for any information at all. Apparently, Ben's parents and my ex-husband couldn't help her with money either, and she is currently working nights to pay off the alimony little by little. She is not getting along with her lover either, and is now back at her parents' house. As expected, my parents-in-law have decided that they can no longer spoil my sister-in-law, and they are nagging her every day and giving her all sorts of warnings. Well, from my point of view, it's like they are finally doing something about it. On the other hand, my daughter and I live comfortably together in a spacious and beautiful apartment. My daughter has become much better at housework, and she supports me a lot during my busy work schedule. I am sure she will be a good wife in the future. I am happy that she seems to have made friends at her new school right away. I would like to continue to live happily with my daughter, supporting each other. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
Do you really have cancer? You lost half of your breast after the surgery, but you're not getting better at all. You know what they say, sickness starts with the mind.
My husband then filled a bowl full of cold water in the middle of winter, and the next thing I knew, he was dumping that cold water at me with great force. When I was stunned by what had just happened,
You better quit it with that look before I come back, and you better fix that cancer with your guts. Understand?
he yelled at me and went off to work. I still remember the look on my husband's pale face the next time I saw him. My name is Michaela. I'm 50 years old and a housewife. I have a family of 3. My husband William, who I went to college with, and our only daughter Beth, who has already left home. 2 months ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I've been noticing some discomfort in my body for a little while now. I kept telling myself, I'll go to the hospital tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and next week. I've been putting my body on the back burner, and this is the result. The cancer was more advanced than I had imagined, and the doctor diagnosed me the lowest stage. But I wasn't too surprised. Maybe I was prepared for it, because this is not the first time I have been diagnosed with cancer. In fact, I had experienced breast cancer 10 years ago. Back then, my husband was working harder than he is now, and our daughter was in junior high school. I was also working part-time, and our ordinary life was changed by my illness.
Cancer? What are you going to do about the housework? Beth is still in middle school.
When I told my husband I had cancer, the first thing he said to me was this. He's always talking about himself. My husband William was a workaholic and didn't want to burden himself with family matters rather than my illness. At the time, it was still in its early stages and I was only in the hospital for a month or so. They explained that since there were no other metastases, my breast could be preserved. When I explained this to my husband, he said,
"Why don't you take the plunge and get rid of your breasts? It's not like you need them."
I was hurt that he said those terrible words with a straight face. I was only 40 years old at the time, and removing my breasts was a difficult decision for a woman to make. I chose to ignore my husband's words and preserve my breasts. While I was in the hospital, my mother-in-law Lauren helped me with the house. But that too was something my husband forced her to do, so she did it reluctantly. While I was in the hospital, I received daily calls from my daughter on my phone saying, "Mom, come home soon. Grandma is so mean to me, I can't take it." My mother-in-law is a serious old-fashioned person, and she yelled at my daughter when she was seen walking down the street with a man when she didn't know. When I checked with my daughter later, she said she was just returning home with some of her classmates after club activities. But Lauren was the kind of person who would get angry over such a trivial matter. I felt sick when I heard that she had even mentioned the color of my daughter's underwear after seeing her laundry. When I contacted my mother-in-law directly about this, she said, "Who do you think you owe to be in the hospital? You think you're so important." She snapped at me. I tried to talk to my husband about it, but he just said,
"I don't care."
My husband's company has many company events, and the employees are close with each other and their families. Even the president and his wife, the managing director, came to visit me in the hospital, but my husband never showed up. Divorce had often crossed my mind, but I was worried about whether I would be able to get custody of my child, as I had little financial security, and my parents had already passed away, so I had few people I could rely on. The most important reason was that if something happened to me, I wouldn't know what would happen to my daughter. 10 years have passed since then. I have been in good health with no recurrence of cancer and no major illnesses. Beth, my daughter, graduated from college and moved out to live on her own. She is struggling with a job she is not used to, but seems to be enjoying it. A few years ago, I quit my part-time job and became a stay-at-home mom. No, it was more correct to say that I had to quit. My parents-in-law's house was within walking distance from my house. My father-in-law died of illness a few years ago, and I was left to take care of him mostly by myself. My mother-in-law, who had also had a hard time taking care of her parents, forced me to take care of my father-in-law as if it was a matter of course, saying that this was my job. My mother-in-law said she didn't want to take care of my father-in-law, and she didn't want to be involved in that kind of work. Sometimes she called me in the middle of the night and asked me to come immediately. "Lauren, I'm not a caregiver professional. Please, let me rest at night. I feel bad for your husband." I complained to my mother-in-law once like this. Then she brought up an incident in the past when I was in the hospital. "Do you not intend to pay me back from back then?" She was very sarcastic. My husband had a sister, Heather, who was also very vicious. "I am a married woman, so I have nothing to do with that family anymore." So she won't care for her father. But when my father-in-law passed away, she said, "I would like to talk about my inheritance with my mother and brother, so Michaela, you have nothing to do with this, so can you please leave the room?" How could she say such a thing without hesitation, without a word of thanks to me who had cared for her father for so many years? My father-in-law was a very kind man, and I felt sorry for him and his family. Just as I was getting ready to ask my husband for a divorce, my mother-in-law developed dementia. It was even harder to care for her than caring for my father-in-law. "Hey, give me my money back." I was repeatedly accused of things I never did. Of course, my mother-in-law was wrong, and I never stole a penny. My mother-in-law's dementia only got worse and worse, and there was one time I spoke to a neighbor. You know, this is hard to say. It's about your mother-in-law. She came to the wake the other day, but according to her, the money in the envelope she received from my mother-in-law only included $2. I asked my husband to ask my mother-in-law about this, and he said,
That can't be true. The people in the house stole it.
He wouldn't even listen to him, and my husband, exasperated, yelled at her to do whatever she wanted, and his anger was also directed at me.
You quit your job and became a housewife, so you better take care of my mom properly.
He yelled at me. This made me so angry that I snapped back. Excuse me? Cut the crap. Do you think I quit my job because I wanted to? Of course not. You're always working. But isn't she your parent? You should be the only one taking care of her. Don't blame me for any of this. My normally mild-mannered husband became impatient as I raised my voice in anger.
Don't suddenly raise your voice. I'll try to help out more, so... Well, I'm sorry.
But his apology was only temporary. He took time off work to accompany my mother-in-law to the hospital a few times. But he couldn't take that many days off, so he went back to his old self, and things went right back to the way they were. I had noticed some discomfort in my body at that time, but with my mother-in-law to take care of, my trips to the hospital became more and more distant. By the time I went to the hospital because I was feeling so ill, the cancer had already taken over my body. This time it had metastasized, and I chose to have one of my breasts removed. The reflection in the mirror made me feel like I was no longer a woman. I cried many times. But when I was discharged from the hospital, my husband's words to me were, in a sense, what I had expected. I was to stay at home until the next treatment, and the doctor told me to rest.
Still, you could at least take care of Mom. If they took your breasts out, you must be cured by now.
The day after I was discharged from the hospital, my husband says such things to me with a sigh as I lay in bed. I can't do it, no matter what you say. Besides, the cancer isn't cured and I'm still sick. I can't deal with your mother. You do it. My wounds are so sore that it hurts to even lift my hand. My mother-in-law gets emotional, throws things, and is not the kind of person a sick person should be dealing with. My husband, who took care of my mother-in-law while I was in the hospital, must have noticed how difficult it was for me. And yet he still forces me to live the same life as before while I'm in the middle of treatment. What a horrible person he is.
Anyway, I'm going to work now, and you can handle the rest.
My husband said that and tried to leave the house. Cut the crap! I shouted loudly, and he turned around and approached me.
Do you really have cancer? You lost half of your breast after the surgery, but you're not getting better at all. You know what they say, sickness starts with the mind. Then
he filled a bowl full of water in the kitchen and dumped it right on me. The coldness of the water and my husband made me shiver. I guess he was under a lot of stress dealing with his mother.
You better quit it with that look before I come back. And you better fix that cancer with your guts. Understand?
He said that and left for work. Cuts? Is he stupid? I want to wipe my wet body and change my clothes right away, but I can't move as much as I want, and my wound hurts. I called my husband right away, but he was either ignoring me or not answering, so I called someone. An hour or so later, my husband came home with a panicked look on his face.
The president asked me, why are you here, Mrs. Director?
My husband was very upset, and even though it was the middle of winter, his face was sweating profusely. Michaela called me. She wants you to get in touch with her. What's the meaning of this? You're taking some time off to deal with Michaela, aren't you? My husband had a cup in his hand with the logo of a nearby coffee shop on it. He lied to me about his work so he could enjoy his time alone.
No, that's...
To my husband, who did not know how to respond, I hate people who can't take care of their families. Do you think someone who can't even take care of his family can take care of a customer who's a complete stranger? Michaela has been asking me for advice for a long time. We are similar in age and we are very close. My husband looks at me as if he's never heard of such a thing before. June, the managing director, and I are only 1 year apart in age, and we both have a daughter, so we have become friends. When I got the call and rushed over to visit her, I was surprised. The front door was unlocked, and Michaela was soaking wet. When Michaela told me her story, all I could feel was resentment. I told her that she should leave you. I heard my husband's voice so small and muffled that I couldn't hear him, not to mention struggling with the words of the executive director. I almost laughed at the thought that my husband, who is often overbearing to me, is such a weak-willed person at the office. The managing director glared at him and said, "Well, I just came to talk to you about work and I'll be on my way. You have about 10 years left until retirement, but we don't have a seniority system. We assign positions based on an employee's personality and enthusiasm for the job, so you won't be getting promotions anytime soon. On the contrary, you may get demoted. You understand what I mean, don't you?" My husband's face grew paler and paler as he listened to the executive director's words. In fact, the current president of the company my husband works for is his son-in-law, and the actual management of the company is the daughter of the president of the entire company. Since the managing director is in charge of the company, my husband's career at this company will surely be cut short in the future, according to the managing director. My husband collapsed to his knees. "You can decide whether or not you want to stay with the company," June, the managing director, said to me. "Michaela, let's have dinner again when you get well." I smiled and told her, of course. When June left our house, my husband said,
Why did you call her out of all people? Are you trying to harass me?
"Huh? Why else would I call her? It's your fault you didn't pick up the phone." My husband looked frustrated, as if he couldn't say anything back to me.
Hey, you're good friends with the managing director, aren't you? I want you to talk to the managing director and tell her that this whole thing was a misunderstanding. Without my income, you'd be in trouble too.
He looked at me with eyes like he was hanging on for dear life. I just silently looked down at my pathetic husband.
I know. Let's leave Mom to my sister. We took care of everything when Dad was still around. Then she should take care of Mom this time. Then you can start a new second life with me.
I broke away and laughed. I wanted to tell you something when I got out of the hospital. My husband's eyes lit up at my words.
Tell me anything.
He replied so happily, and I said to him, "Please, divorce me." I looked my husband straight in the eye and said coldly, "Did you think I was going to beg you for something?" Hearing the word divorce, my husband widened his eyes.
Why?
Is all he could say from the shock. "Did you think I didn't know what was going on? I heard that you called Beth the first day I was admitted to the hospital and tried to get her to take time off work to take care of you and your mother. Don't you dare make fun of me." When I got the call from my daughter, I was gutted. This idiot husband was going to make our daughter take time off of work to take care of his mother. My daughter obeyed my advice to ignore him, and when she didn't respond, my husband gave up and was left to deal with his mother. I had resigned myself to the fact that this was my destiny in life, but I still don't want to live like this. How could someone who treats even his own parents like an obstacle in his life be so nice to me, a stranger? I don't want you in my life from now on. Get out of my sight right now. My husband must have been widely irritated by my nonchalant tone.
What can you do without me? You are sick and unemployed.
My husband yelled at me. "Don't worry, I'm here." Out of the corner of my eye, my daughter Beth was standing there. I'm the one who called her.
Hey, shouldn't you be at work? Working people can't take time off work easily.
Beth ignored my husband's words and immediately went over to me. "Mom, I'm sorry I'm late. I've got a cab waiting for us. Let's go." She quickly and lightly packed my luggage and was about to leave the house.
Beth, you've always been so selfish. I sent you to college, you ungrateful bastard.
My husband was furious. "What? You sent me to college? You told me not to go to college, so I took out a loan and worked so that I can go. Your memories are falling out along with your thinning hair." Beth giggled as she looked at the top of my husband's slightly thinning head. I couldn't help but giggle at Beth's words. My husband's face turned bright red, perhaps embarrassed, but I was no longer afraid of this man. I'm sure you're going to have a tough time soon with your former subordinate becoming your boss and your personal life being taken care of by your selfish mother. I'll be able to live a peaceful life with my beautiful daughter. Of course, I won't let my illness get the better of me. Suck on that. And from Beth, my daughter, you may be my father, but I don't consider you one. You treated my mom like a slave. You won't even help me when my grandma says horrible things about me, and I don't want a father like that, and I don't want to see you anymore. With a triumphant look on my face, I left the house with Beth. In the cab, I tell Beth, I'm sorry, Beth. I know I'm going to cause you a lot of trouble. Beth looked at me with a puzzled look on her face. I'm sorry? What do you mean? I'm glad you finally divorced Dad. And don't worry about our life. I make a lot of money. I'm an adult now. Thank you for relying on me, Mom. I couldn't stop crying at the words of my daughter, who had grown up to be a fine woman before I knew it. After that, my husband and I got divorced. My ex-husband kept trying to get me to stay with him, but there was no way that was happening. Because of the way he had treated me, I was awarded alimony for the emotional pain and the division of property in my favor. What happened to my ex-husband after that was worse than I could have imagined. He was taking care of my ex-mother-in-law with dementia while working, but he gave up after only a week and tried to get his sister to do it. Heather tried to put Lauren in a facility, but she was told that there was a long waiting list, a year at the earliest. My ex-mother-in-law would walk out of the house and take store merchandise out of the store, and my ex-husband said the store has called him at work numerous times. William began to make more mistakes because he's not sleeping enough, and his former subordinate has been promoted for supervisor, and he was finally offered to work shorter hours. His income has dropped considerably, and he started living together at his sister's house, but you can hear their bickering every day from the house. One of the neighbors contacted Heather, and it seems that the siblings are now taking care of their own parents even though they don't want to. But it's my ex-mother-in-law, so it's not going to be easy. But I hope they have a hard time. It's none of my business anymore. June, the managing director, told me everything. I moved in with my daughter after that. I finished the rest of my treatment, and now I'm under observation with regular checkups, and I've lost a lot of my energy, so I'm taking time off to do housework and light exercise. I hope to be able to go back to work when things settle down. Recently, I received a call from my ex-husband, whom I have blocked from receiving calls with a blocked number.
Michaela, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time every day and I'm sick with the flu. Please, help me.
To this sick, middle-aged man who is sobbing on the phone, I said, I see. So as they say, sickness comes from the mind, so why don't you just pour water over your head and try to fix it with your guts? If you want me to cure cancer with my guts, you can do this much, right? Oh, if you call me again, I'll go to the police. I hung up the phone coldly, and the next day I changed my phone number. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought I would never be able to see the day my daughter gets married, but the other day Beth said a little shyly, Mom, there is someone I'd like you to meet. Apparently, my dream may be coming true in the near future. So my new dream is to hold my grandchild in my arms. My second life has just begun, and I will not be defeated by illness. With this in mind, I will continue to live strongly, one day at a time.
I'm sorry, I recently couldn't attend the entrance ceremony.
He apologetically patted his daughter on the head and said as much. He lied and said he was on a business trip. I wanted to brush away my husband's dirty hands, who planned to go on a cheating trip, from my daughter's head. After the entrance ceremony ended successfully, my daughter must have been tired because she fell asleep right after dinner. Just before the date changed, as I was about to go to sleep, I received a WhatsApp message from my husband.
Send me a picture of Samantha in her school bag. Normally, you should have sent it before I asked.
Angered by my husband's words, I sent him a picture of the evidence of his affair.
Wait a minute, this is different.
My husband panicked and started to explain himself in a pleading manner. My name is Alana, a 38-year-old office worker. The courage of my husband has been evident throughout our 7 years of marriage. We got married after I became pregnant with our daughter Samantha. Originally, we were acquainted as business partners. As we worked together, our bond grew closer. Eventually, he started inviting me out for meals, and we began dating. Our courtship lasted about a year and a half, but I was actually happy when I found out I was pregnant because I had been wanting to marry him. It seemed he shared the same sentiment and expressed his desire to build a happy family together. However, since getting married, I feel like I've been more disappointed by my husband than pleased overall. Firstly, regarding household chores, my husband doesn't do any of them at all. I had mistakenly believed that he was capable of basic housework since he had lived alone for a long time, but he has never even held a kitchen knife before. He has hardly ever done any cleaning or laundry. How have you been living like that until now?
Well, I used to eat out, buy convenience store lunches, or have cup noodles, and my mother would come over every week to clean.
I was dumbfounded when my husband told me about it after we got married. My husband rarely cooked for himself, and he would just put the garbage outside in a large bin, expecting his mother to come out and dispose of it. My mother-in-law used to come over and take care of the garbage disposal at our house, it seems. Moreover, she would do the cleaning once a week, coinciding with my husband's cleaning routine. As for laundry, my husband believed that as long as he put it in the washing machine with a dryer, it would be done, so he hardly did any actual household chores. That's why, even when we started living together, he didn't do any housework at all. At the beginning of our marriage, I took a third-level maternity leave and stayed at home so I could still manage the housework to some extent. But it became really difficult after my maternity leave ended and I returned to work. After work, I would pick up our daughter from daycare, stop by the supermarket on the way home to buy groceries, and then hurriedly prepare dinner. During that time, I also had to pay close attention to our daughter, and it was mentally exhausting. My husband would come home when he felt like it, complaining about being tired without even thanking me, and would eat dinner as if it were obvious. Moreover, if I happened to come home a bit late due to overtime or something and dinner wasn't ready yet, he would complain, saying it still wasn't done. Since such things happened regularly, there was a time when I got angry. I'm tired too from working. I actually want to share the household chores, but since you don't do them, I end up doing everything. Instead of just complaining, I want you to either help or show gratitude. When I yelled at him like that, my husband finally seemed to realize how selfish he had been and apologized, saying,
"I'm sorry."
From then on, while he didn't do any housework, he stopped complaining about household matters to me. Afterwards, we generally lived peacefully. Our daughter grew up healthy and I became close with my husband. While listening to stories from her kindergarten days, we would go to the supermarket together and we enjoyed family time during dinner. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. However, recently there's something that's been bothering me. It's my husband's strange behavior. He has stopped having conversations with me and our daughter at home and is constantly engrossed in his smartphone. Sometimes he would smirk while looking at the screen and it made me feel uneasy. When I asked him what he was looking at, he briefly panicked and said,
I'm just checking Twitter or Instagram.
It felt suspicious, but I tried not to pry too much. Furthermore, a few months ago, my husband started going to work early in the morning and staying late for overtime. It seems he has also been working on weekends, and his workload has become quite heavy. However, instead of being exhausted, he seems to be in a good mood and full of energy lately. Feeling even more suspicious, I decided to consult with a friend about it. Does that mean he's having an affair? Yeah, it seems so. Yeah, a woman at my workplace had the same problem, and as expected, it seems her husband was having an affair. She decided to investigate properly and hired a private detective. She managed to obtain evidence of the affair through photos and was able to divorce him with solid proof. Maybe you should consider investigating too, just to reveal the truth, even if you still have doubts. Yeah, I agree. Let's look into it. I had considered hiring a private detective myself, but I couldn't gather the courage. If my husband was truly having an affair, I didn't know if I could bear the truth when confronted with it. However, after discussing it with my friend, I felt more at ease and decided to give it a try. My friend recommended a detective agency that her colleague had used before, so I requested an investigation. Luckily, they had a special promotion, so I could use their services at a discounted price. From then on, I also started keeping an eye on my husband's suspicious behavior. And so, days passed by, and a month went by in the blink of an eye. Finally, I received the results of the detective agency's investigation. As expected, my husband was indeed having an affair. The photos provided by the detective agency showed my husband and his mistress being affectionate and entering a hotel together. The mistress turned out to be a junior colleague at his workplace. It seemed that his late returns, early departures, and weekend work were all excuses to meet with his affair partner. A surge of anger welled up inside me. My husband had betrayed me, disregarding our family and indulging in his own desires. I would never forgive him. I vowed to take revenge on my husband. While conducting my own research, I obtained new information about my husband and his mistress. It happened while he was deeply asleep. I used his finger to unlock his smartphone with a fingerprint scanner, and I checked the WhatsApp conversation with his mistress. There, I stumbled upon shocking information. The two of them were planning to go on an affair trip next month. I was speechless. The date they had planned coincided with our daughter's elementary school entrance ceremony. My husband had sent messages to his mistress saying he couldn't wait for the trip and that he was more excited about it than our daughter's entrance ceremony. I captured those messages as photos on my own phone. Oblivious to everything, my husband continued to make excuses about overtime and weekend work to make time for his affair partner. Meanwhile, I proceeded with preparations for divorce. I consulted a lawyer, went to a real estate agent to search for a new place, and made sure I could separate from my husband as soon as possible. My husband, who was absorbed in his affair partner, seemed completely oblivious to the fact that I was gradually packing my belongings. But it was convenient for me. I had made up my mind to leave as soon as the entrance ceremony was over. And on the day of our daughter's entrance ceremony, she was wearing a new outfit and looked extremely happy. Meanwhile, my husband was regretting his inability to attend the ceremony while putting on a fake act.
Why does a business trip have to come up at a time like this? Well, it's work, so I can't help it. It's our important daughter's entrance ceremony, so I wish they would let me take the day off. Seriously, our company has been like a shady company lately.
As he said that while sipping his coffee, it's evident that he's in a cheerful mood. He can't hide his excitement about the upcoming trip with his affair partner. It's truly disgusting. With utmost contempt for my husband, I prepared for the entrance ceremony. Afterward, my husband picked up his suitcase and put on his shoes at the entrance, pretending once again.
I'm sorry, I can't attend the entrance ceremony.
He tried to say it with a fake act, apologizing for not being able to attend the entrance ceremony, and lightly patting our daughter's head. I wanted to get that dirty hand of my husband, who lied that he was on a business trip and was going to go on a cheating trip, off my daughter's head. No, Daddy always works hard, so it's okay. That's why I'm willing to endure it. Don't worry and do your best at work. When our daughter said that, my husband's face twitched for a moment. He then smiled wryly and replied,
Yeah, I'll do my best. Thank you.
The guilt must be creeping in when our daughter said that, knowing it's not really work. I suppose he feels guilty when our daughter says things like that because deep down, he knows it's not really work. However, even so, I have no intention of forgiving him under any circumstances. And then my husband left the house with a suitcase in hand. I temporarily switched my feelings and went to the elementary school entrance ceremony with my daughter. She walked confidently. I felt proud as well. I became happy thinking that my daughter's joyful school life was about to begin. I hope she makes lots of friends and creates wonderful memories. Of course, I also want her to study hard. While watching my daughter, I had these thoughts. The entrance ceremony ended smoothly, and my daughter must have been tired because she fell asleep soon after having dinner. Since we will be moving from this house tomorrow, I want my daughter to rest and recover her energy. Just before the date changed, as I was about to go to sleep, I received a WhatsApp message from my husband.
Send me a photo of Samantha in her school bag.
Ugh, too much trouble. Probably felt guilty after our daughter's words this morning and wanted to at least know how the ceremony went. I changed into my pajamas and got into bed for the time being. I was planning to send the photo, but before I could do that, I received another message from my husband.
Normally, you should have sent it without me asking. You never think ahead, do you? I reluctantly came on this business trip, you know.
What is he talking about? His words angered me. In response, I sent him evidence of his affair, a photo of him entering a hotel with his mistress, their arms entwined. Immediately, I received a call, but I didn't answer. I turned off my phone. I don't want to waste my energy on a phone call at this hour, considering we have the move tomorrow. I had a peaceful sleep, and the next morning I packed my belongings with my daughter. When I turned on my phone in the morning, there were numerous messages from my husband, but I ignored them and focused on dealing with the moving company. Finally, my daughter and I completed the move. I'm sorry, Samantha. From today onward, it will be just you and me living here. We won't live together with your father anymore. When I said that, it seemed like my daughter, though still a child, understood something. If you become sad by living with Dad, then it's better for me to live with you. So I want to live here with you, Mom. Tears welled up in my eyes upon hearing my daughter's words. How did she become such a clever child? I felt truly sorry for inconveniencing her due to the circumstances of her parents. From now on, I have to live as a strong single mother and protect my daughter. With a strong determination, I made up my mind. A few hours later, my husband returned home. The phone rang again, and I knew it was time to face him.
Alana, you finally showed up. What the hell is that photo?
That's what I wanted to ask you.
Well, let's meet and talk in person for now.
Reluctantly, I agreed to meet my husband at a diner. As soon as he saw me, his face turned pale and he rushed over.
Alana, thank you for making time.
Don't misunderstand. I wanted you to sign the divorce papers, so I made time to meet you in person.
Divorce?
Why are you so surprised? It's only natural since you had an affair. I laid out the photographic evidence in front of my husband. And besides the photos I sent you, I still have more.
Wait, listen, this is different. I was set up. I had something put in my drink at that time.
My husband started desperately explaining to me, looking very flustered. Can't you come up with a better lie? I know very well that you willingly had an affair. I showed him the photos of the WhatsApp conversations between him and his mistress.
When did you?
I opened WhatsApp while you were fast asleep, going on an affair trip on Samantha's entrance ceremony day. How despicable. What kind of business trip was that? Your lousy lies were unbearable. My husband blushed when he realized that I knew everything and had witnessed his poor acting.
You knew?
Of course. That's why I was able to send you these photos. Upon hearing that, my husband placed his hands on the table and bowed his head.
I was wrong. I was just fooling around with her. You and Samantha are the only ones who matter to me, so please, don't divorce me.
He begged like that, always so self-centered. If that's the case, then you shouldn't have gone on an affair trip on our daughter's entrance ceremony day. You're just all talk. Whether you sign the divorce papers or not doesn't matter to me. I will divorce you, even if it goes to court.
Huh?
My husband realized that I was determined, and his face turned pale. Besides, I've already moved to a new house with Samantha. Samantha has agreed to live with just me.
That's...
Well, let's handle the alimony and other matters through lawyers then. My husband looked utterly defeated and slumped in his seat. I stood up, ignoring him, and left the diner. Afterward, I claimed alimony from my husband and his mistress. Of course, I also demanded child support. from my husband. He resisted the divorce until the very end, but when the lawyer said it would go to court, he finally came to his senses and signed the divorce papers. By the way, my ex-husband told me that he didn't want to divorce me, and that it was just a fling with his mistress. I made sure to inform his mistress, who was very shocked to hear that. After paying the alimony, it seems that the mistress decided to break up with my husband. Since I sent a certified letter to his workplace, he couldn't stay there and ended up quitting. My ex-husband lost his wife, daughter, mistress, and the trust at his job all at once. Currently, it seems he is enduring a cold and distant life, working hard to pay the substantial alimony and child support. On the other hand, I am living a comfortable life in a new home with my daughter. She seems to enjoy school and tells me about her day with a smile every day. I feel the happiest when I hear her stories while having dinner together. I will continue to work hard to protect my life with my daughter. Going on an affair trip on your daughter's entrance ceremony day? It's impossible to say what he values his daughter, right? I wish men like this would disappear from the world. It's good that Alana was able to file for alimony and child support. Please continue to have a happy and harmonious life with your daughter. Thank you for watching until the end. If you liked the content, please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.